our Lord. Talking to you from the house. Jesus Christ our Lord. Talking to you from the house. Jesus Christ our Lord. All right.
That's it. And now on to Doug.
It's the Doug's hour.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Doug. Hi, Doug.
Are we live now? We are live. Ben's our hero.
Yeah, he tells me what to do, but I don't understand it. So, I was working on it. There's so many places. It did come up on your phones, right? Tommy, did you see it? I think I saw it on mine, so I think we're good. Well, welcome. Thank you guys for jumping in there. And by the way, we're not going to be here next week. Remember that, everybody? We won't be here next week, but we'll be here on the week following.
You abandoned us.
Excuse me?
You abandoned us.
We will not be here. I'm not abandoning you.
We're feeling like stepchildren.
I have a response, but I get in trouble if I use it. So, no, in my mind, I'm not abandoning you. I'm paying attention to something very important in my life. And, I'll just tell you, it's our 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh,
so now how do you feel? And so, we will, and I gave everybody an option to go ahead and have a meeting with me or without me, because that'd be fine, but everybody said they didn't want to do it without me, and so anyway, I won't be here, and so.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. What you see today is because of my wife, Linda, and Jesus, and I'm not sure which one had the most influence. I think it was Jesus, but my wife got a hold of me first. So anyway, tonight we're going to hit step 9, and I'm planning on covering the 10-step forgiveness protocol, and hopefully this will be it, because I haven't put them out yet, but I have some paperwork on how to ask for forgiveness, or not forgiveness. Let me look at it. Let me find it, and then I'll be able to tell. That's right here. No, I haven't put it out. I got it up here, but I'll put it out here in a moment. But it's on how to apologize to someone you've hurt and actually move forward. And it's about how to give amends properly. Anyway, there's 10 items on it. We won't go into them, because if I get started on them, I won't get finished with the others. I want to get finished with the others. How's that? Sound good? So welcome everyone that's here live. Welcome for you out there on Video Land that's with us live, and welcome to the ones that will watch it on the replay. I get information from many different folks that say they watch us, and they may not watch all of it, but they watch some of it. Whatever it is, that's fine. So we're glad for being able to be a help. I think I'm going to go ahead and read this one comment, and it's something that's really been kind of going through my head for the last several months, and I have had it on my paperwork for that length of time, and I hadn't read it, I don't believe. And it's what I entitled The Hero's Journey. How about that? Are you ready for this? It says, without challenges, how would we get better? How would we ever discover the strength which we are truly capable of if we are fighting through difficulties. It means a hero is being born. What do you think? So, have I read that before? No. Okay.
Where you got from, Doug?
Well, you can look it up on the internet. Actually, it was on a little video that I stumbled across, and it was just someone saying it, and I actually listened to that. It was only it's not very long. It's 30 seconds, minute, maybe as it probably closer to 30 seconds, and I just listened to it for a long time for a while because I think I wanted to get it down inside of me, and I looked it up and put it down. And so anyway, welcome everyone. We're going to be talking about step 9, and I'm going to read step 9. Then John's going to read all the steps for us, right, John?
Yeah.
And so step 9 is we made a decision. No, we made a direct amends to such people wherever possible. I emboldened wherever possible, because there may be some times you're not able to do that, but if possible, then we should do it, except for when to do so would injure them or others. So step 9 is a really good process. And as we've been talking about in forgiveness, and as we're going to be talking about making apologies, this is about not only trying to get right with another person, but the bottom line here is about our own personal healing. It's about us being restored and doing the right thing, even if someone doesn't respond in the way that we would like them to. In fact, one of the things that I'm not going to read tonight, it talked about, having expectations. You think, well, if you ask somebody to forgive you, and by the way, I don't even know, I've read information about maybe you shouldn't even say, would you forgive me? You just say you're sorry. It's up to them whether they forgive you or not. Have you ever thought of that before? So, and it really kind of depends on what the situation is. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that tonight. We got a lot of stuff to do, and so I'm just going to shut up and we're going to get going. And John, come on down.
Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character, even though it would hurt very much. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all, even ourselves. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Thank you very much. Here's Willie.
Good evening. How y'all doing tonight? Well, good, I'm done. Oh, okay, maybe not. We're doing the servant's heart, step 9. We made a direct amends to such people. We made a direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do, except,
And you thought it was easy when I did it, right?
yeah, hold on.
Really, it's hard to hear you. Could you just line up a little bit?
Move closer. Then you wouldn't have, then you could hear me.
I heard you.
Okay, see, they hear me.
I heard you.
You're sitting way across the room. Okay, how's this?
They can't hear you over the internet.
They're not complaining.
I checked it, and I could hear him.
Is that better, John?
Yes.
Okay. Echoes up here. Wow, okay.
I want to talk to you about the echo. But did you ever find out anything on those boards?
Yeah, she said we're good. I just have to dig them out of her closet.
Okay. Because I could get some carpet or something, and Willie can put it on the back wall for me.
I just gotta bring it.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
We're gonna start over here because I forgot where I was at. Servant's heart. Step 9, we made a direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure or hurt them. At this point in recovery, most of us have experienced some major changes in our attitudes.
All right, you and I already talked about this.
Yes.
So, the first question is on the first sentence, and that is, what does that mean? Okay, read, he says, what's the question again? So read the first
At
statement.
this point in recovery, most of us have experienced some major changes in our attitude.
So what does that mean? Tommy, since you asked to reread it.
Adjustment, attitude adjustment,
Attitude adjustment.
yes.
Hopefully positive.
Hope, that's good, John. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did for this.
Yeah, so it's talking about having an attitude change, and as John said, hopefully positive. Yes. So, but what does that mean? That we've reached this point in recovery. Appreciate it, John. Thanks. And thank you. And so we've reached this. Won't you just read that sentence again? How about that?
At this point in recovery, most of us have experienced some major changes.
Wait a second, right there. Have you all experienced some major changes? Okay. So, and hopefully, now we're talking about recovery type changes. Have you experienced some recovery type changes? Yes. How about you out there in internet land? I'd say yes too. So change, and particularly we're talking about in our attitudes. How about that area? Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Would somebody like to expound on that?
Well, I see a vision of a compass and what we think at certain points in our life is our true north. You know, Jesus comes along and goes, no, you're way off. You know, we need to readjust the compass to true north, you know, and I view it more like, well, I mean, sin literally means missing the mark. So if your angles of degrees off of your shot in archery, you're sinning, you're missing the mark in archery. The same with us. It's not like a lot of it's not 180 degrees. It can be. Repent, totally flip around and do the exact opposite. But after a while, a lot of it is just adjustment. A few degrees here and there can make a big difference down the road, you know. And so James talks about the tongue being a little rudder controlling the ship. I just think that, change comes by readjusting your value system, your compass.
Yep, I agree with that, and that would, if you're changing your compass, so to speak, that would be affecting your attitude,
Yeah.
right? How many would agree with that?
Yep.
So, let's measure it. How about that? You ready to measure it? Or do you want to express what you wanted to say about it?
Let's measure it. I'm curious here.
Okay, all right, so let's measure it. And you say, well, how can we do this? Well, you know what? When you ask yourself a question, if you're really honest, you'll hear. Okay, so ask yourself where I was, wherever you want to say, when I started recovery, or what would be a good safe mark, Willie? 6 months ago? How about if we say 6 months ago? Is that a good place, right? 6 months? Because that's so. How, if I was to measure my attitude, far as far as recovery type attitude, the changing of my attitude, as far as in a good way in recovery, where was I 6 months ago? 0 being the bad, 10 being ultimate. Okay, 100%. So where would you say you were at 6 months ago? Who would be so bold to?
I'd probably say I was back to 0.
You were at 0.
After 12 years, I was back to 0.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that. Anybody else? 0. Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? Mr. Speaker, do you have something you want to say?
6 months ago,
You don't have to say. I just thought I'd make sure I include you.
I was on a rebound 6 months ago, so almost have to say somewhere in the middle.
Okay, so you were at somewhere in the middle. Could range from 3 to 9 or 8.
If you'd go back like 2 years ago with now 0 is supposed to be
The bad is
The
bad.
I was at a -10 about 2 years ago.
2 years ago, but we're just talking about 6 months ago.
6 months ago, I say I bounced back up to about a 5, 6.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that's where you were. We're talking about 6 months ago. Anybody else want to say before we move on? John? Okay, all right. All right, anybody else? So now step back and look at yourself, think about it, ask yourself the question, if I was to measure myself right now, where would I be at in my stage of recovery as far as my attitude goes right at this present time? Who would be so bold to? 9? Who said that? Okay, all right, good. Congratulations. 7. Very good.
I would say about 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Good. Very good.
About a 9.
All right, good.
About 6 or 7.
All right, good. Good. Now you were wondering how we could measure this, but now we have, haven't we? I didn't tell you what you measured, but somehow we knew where we were at when we would look to see. Do you agree with that? Isn't that interesting? And now it may be different tomorrow. It could be up, it could be down, or it might be just the same. What do you think about that?
I think that's why ultimately you can't depend on quote unquote feelings. And the reason I say quote unquote is because it might be external stimuli, feelings, emotions, intuition. I mean, there's several different, whatever, but you can't depend on undependable things.
Well, I don't disagree with that statement, although it could be inferred that we're saying that you should not rely on your feelings in any way. But we could say the same thing about our thinking, our thoughts, our logic, because that can be as twisted up as our feelings are,
Very good.
right? So what we're trying to do is ask the question, and that we have a understanding of what a recovery and what good is and how good that is. And that's the reason why I usually use the term healthy instead of good, because healthy seems to be easier to define than good. Good has a lot of fluffiness in it, flexibility in it. And so, but that's and particularly in the beginning of our recovery, that's the reason why I didn't go all the way back to the beginning. Just said 6 months. You know, the scripture talks about our consciousness is being seared like a hot iron. We're closing off. But as we begin to open up, and that's what you're doing in recovery, are you not? You're being honest. You're being vulnerable. You worked on an amends list. Now you're getting ready to take action on this list, right? And that's pretty tough stuff. But it's healthy stuff. But you'd have never done that in the beginning. In fact, even to think about that scared you. I mean, a lot of us had a hard time getting past step 4.
Some of us even step 1.
Yeah. So, and one of the questions tonight kind of asks about in relationship to which step you need to kind of focus on. So anyway, any other comments from anybody? Willie, did you want to make a comment?
Not at this time.
Okay, go ahead.
At one time, we were all consumed by our addictions that we thought only of ourselves, failing to show any consideration for others. This step focused on the interests and needs of others. The Apostle Paul taught.
I need to make a little statement here before we get into this, because this, most of the time when you address things, you address it from a particular position. You know, like John was talking about a while ago about emotions. Well, that was from that position. But then I went on and said, well, what, you know, let's look at these other positions. And so I just, what we're getting ready to talk about here is from a particular position. All right. And that's from people that are arrogant, or they act arrogant, which is 2 different things. Probably there's more people that act arrogant than are arrogant, as far as I'm concerned. Do you understand what that means? Okay. They're really insecure, but they act like they're arrogant. So one of the things that insecure people do is put down other people to make themselves feel better, right? And so and this is coming from that perspective about how we think about others, that we're better than others. But Scripture also talks about not thinking of yourself in a less manner also. But tonight we're only talking about one perspective. All right. I just want to make sure I throw that balance out there to you. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Go.
Don't be selfish.
What's the scripture? 1 Peter.
1 Peter. No. This is
This is Philippians
2,
3.
3. Yeah, I ain't got that one yet. Now let's start right here again. Philippians 2, 3 through 4. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourself. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take the interest of others too.
Let me read out of the Amplified Bible. It says, do not do do, I'm having a terrible time too, Willie. Do nothing for yourself, for selfishness or empty conceit through factional motives. Factional means from a particular point of view. In other words, in a group view or a system view, or strife. From a strife view. It's I'm good, they're bad type of deal. We're in the Amplified. It says, but with an attitude of humility, regard others more important than yourself. Okay? All right, go ahead.
Whether we make amends directly to others or choose not to because of the injury it would cause, we should be concerned with protecting others from pain and suffering. There may be situations in which we will suffer if we go back to make amends. This is part of the work of recovery. The potential pain should not defer us. The Apostle Paul wrote, this is 1 Peter 2:18-23. If you suffer for doing good and endure it patiently, God is pleased with you. Christ suffered for you. He is your example and steps. He never sinned nor deceived anyone. He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. He left his case in the hands of God, who always judges fairly. This step can be very difficult as we face painful consequences of past actions. During this time, we need to turn our lives over to God, and who always judges fairly.
Justly.
Justly, did I say that wrong?
You said fairly.
Well, it says fairly in here. Okay, sorry, justly.
Okay. Comments? What'd you get out of this?
If
The reason why I corrected you on fairly, I don't know what said fairly, but fair is another one of those terms. What's fair to you may not be fair to me, and what's fair to me may not be fair to you. But justly is a different story. That's the reason why I said that. I've had people come into my office and they said, "Well, it's not fair," and from your point of view, I see that. But if you look at from this advantage point, you can see that there's a different perspective here. You get that? All right. Go.
having a servant's heart helps us to be closer to God. Because like I said, when we wrap up in our addiction, we get into that, we're only thinking of ourselves, nothing else matters. So how can we, without the feeling, the compassion or for the others, we're just stuck. There's no way to move forward. I'm done.
All right. Who wants to go next? Tommy, I guess, is on the way.
Tommy,
He went second last time. so-
He did? Okay.
hey, Johnny.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Back at you. I'm gonna have to move up. That spot so I can see you. Instead of we're looking through these bars.
Yeah, I don't want you seeing any through bars.
I thought-
Or vice versa.
Yeah. It'd be even worse that way, wouldn't it?
Yeah. What would he do without Doug? All right, a servant's heart. What am I afraid will happen when I attempt to make amends? Not be ignored, or physically, or mentally, verbally attacked. I think of some of the people on my list, and I know how they live their lives today and before or whatever. I imagine that it wouldn't go very smoothly. You with me? I'm getting kind of lost on this question because it kind of hit a spot in me when I read this.
Yeah.
Because I got some people that I'd love to make amends with, but I just don't see how.
So what's your question about the question?
Oh, what am I afraid will happen when I attempt to make amends?
So what's your question about that?
Well, where would I stand in the way of the amends? Like, how would I cause it? Like, if I did something wrong, I didn't let God work through me.
Well, it's what am I afraid that might happen? And so you're saying what you're afraid of is that you won't let God work through you. Is that
but
what you're saying?
I'll step in the way, yes.
You're stepping away?
Yeah.
Well, you probably will,
No, because I'll be there.
because we all make mistakes, right? And it's part of the process. Who do you think you are to think you got to be perfect?
I'm not perfect.
But you're thinking that you should be.
I just get scared of the situation, of how I would react.
Well, yeah, and see, again, you're saying I'm scared because I think I'm going to make a mistake, so I think I should be perfect. And how's that going to be?
Not very good.
So the reality is what? What's the reality?
Of the whole situation?
No,
Oh.
of you make the potential of you making a mistake, and then what should you do to fix it?
It's gonna happen.
It's going to happen,
Yes.
and that's the way that it is,
Yes.
right?
It's gonna happen.
And it's a learning process.
Yes, it is.
And you're trying to build up some emotional reserves to be able to deal with hard things because life is hard, right?
Yes, it is.
And a lot of us have done all we could do to avoid those hard times, right?
Yes.
By
That's what's got us here.
and so now we're making choices to step into hard things, and that's what step 9 is about. But it's not. Yes, it is to help make to give the opportunity to maybe correct some wrongs and heal some pain if possible. But we really can't do that. All we can do is do our part. It's up to that individual what they do.
Right.
But it's about us being willing and having the courage and the faith to step out, because my freedom and my healing is important to me. And I'm not going to run and hide and avoid and numb and slip out like I've always done the rest of my life.
Very true.
And you say, but it's hard and it's painful. And I say, yes, but it's not going to be as painful
The other side.
then,
No, go ahead.
it's not going to be as painful as staying in the middle of your crap the rest of your life and then probably dying from it. Hello?
Very true.
Because if we carry that around, neuroscience tells us this bad feeling, this hurt, this dread, this unforgiveness, this pain, this guilt, if we carry that around, that affects our mental way we think, it affects us emotionally, and it affects us physically because it affects our immune system. And we will cause ourselves, and think about it, you already do this, we all do this, you'll cause yourself to suffer. Hello? Right? And that's what these steps are about, is to help us to relieve this suffering. And by the way, suffering doesn't come from the outside, suffering comes from the inside most of the time. That's what's most painful. Yeah, people can do things to you, that hurts. But it's how you interpret that hurt. Did you hear that? How you interpret that hurt is what causes you to suffer the most.
That goes with the next question.
Yeah, I want to say this. I was talking with a guy, and he, you know, like a lot of us, did good, and then, you know, overwhelming stuff happened. You know, just stuff upon stuff, and now he's in a place that it's hard from all the stuff that's piling on him. But see, he's piling on himself. You know what I'm talking about? Self-condemnation, self-hatred, self-punishment, self-torture. Hello? And abandonment is one of the hardest things that there is. But what's even worse than other people abandoning us is that we abandon ourselves. And then sometimes we abandon ourselves and we blame God for it. That was a look. Well, it's amen or oh me.
That was an OB.
That's oh me. Okay, you go. Did I answer some of that question that you had?
Yes. Do I fear that painful consequences will cause me suffering if I make amends? To some point, yes, I do, but I know that from working these steps that some of that pain helps me grow, helps me see better, live better.
Well, you said some.
Because I haven't faced all of it yet.
Okay, well, all right.
That's
So
why I
that
said
you haven't.
some of it.
Okay.
I haven't faced, there's things I haven't
But
faced yet,
did you notice that one word in there, suffering?
causing suffering.
Yeah. You know that again, that suffering. The suffering is the emotional suffering that we are inflicting upon ourselves about things that we're not able. We feel like we should control, but we can't control. And one of the ways we've always controlled it was run away from it, hide it, avoid it, and numb it, and all the other stuff.
Now it's there.
Now it's there. What are you going to do? Are you going to take responsibility? Are you going to deal with it? Are you going to go ahead and step into it? Are you going to say, I can do hard things? Or are you going to say the other?
It reminds me of the prodigal son, like when he finally decided to turn around, he came to himself. Think of all the anguish he put himself through by imagining all these various scenarios, and then the reality wasn't anything like he had put himself through imagining all the various things. I think that's one reason that it says in the scriptures that when you get called before the magistrates, take no thought what you'll say, because it will be given you in that very hour what you should say. So pre-thinking it, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. What you think may happen in the natural, God can overdo in the spiritual, realm, and that will totally make the natural happen like a miracle. So,
And that's, I don't disagree with any of that. And that is really, can be really tough stuff, because we want to control stuff. All right. We've already talked about that a little bit. And so, but I really like your analogy about the prodigal son and all the imaginations that we think up. And that reminds me of the scripture talks about just being instant.
yeah.
And we don't we don't trust being instant most of the time, okay? But the fact of it is, the longer we go and the better we get, and our number that we measured a while ago moves up, we can have a little more certainty that God is there to help us, and that we're able to connect with that, and then we're able to function with that. And that's what we call recovery.
Yes.
All right? Transformation. So, did we address your question, just that question?
Well, I still have half of it left. If so, what is the worst that could happen to me?
There you go.
Well, like you said, the imagination goes running wild with thoughts before, being there. It's like being rejected was a big one for me. That I put all this time and effort into it, and then all of a sudden I'm rejected. That was the biggest one.
Rejection's hard.
Yeah. 'Cause that brings on now and then I attack myself.
Well, is it all right if I say something about that rejection?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. So I talked about expectations a while ago, and sometimes we set ourselves up for rejection because we have expectations, and we say that they have to accept me. They cannot reject me. But who do you think you are unless you're God?
Yeah,
They have a
that's
right to do whatever they want. They can make any wise or stupid decision that they choose, and God has given them the right to do that.
Yep.
And He protects that right. And
All
so,
parties.
but could it be possible that this situation that we're afraid of is really, if we will be willing to take our responsibility and know that whatever their response is, I'm doing what is setting me free and helping me to grow and helping me to be able to gain some new endurance to be able to navigate life and not be so dependent on other people's approval.
Amen.
Because that's that, and by the way, that's another addiction, in case you didn't know it.
Yep.
What was that look about? Yeah. And so people, and what that means in a condensed version is that if I put other people's opinion over God's opinion. So then if that's the case, I'm making them my God.
Yeah, I will.
And how's that going to work out for you?
Nope.
How has it worked out for you? Matthew, you've been real quiet tonight.
And that doesn't work out for me either. If I do it that way.
Okay, go ahead.
Do I trust God's will for me if I follow the challenges of step 9?
Read that again.
Do I trust God's will for me?
Wait, read that again.
Do I trust God's will for me?
Wait. Let's start right there.
Do I trust God's will for me? Yes.
Ask the question. Hey, ask the question.
Do you trust God's will for you?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah.
If we were to measure that,
Get the measure stick out again.
9.
I'm not going to ask you because you already measured it just because I said that.
Yeah.
All right.
Already got another man.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. God's will can be a big different will from all those, free will people you were talking about that have the right to be stupid, stubborn, whatever you want to call it, and they got the free will to do it. Suppose they have the power over your lives like the Christians being fed to the lions, see, or the Christians in Ukraine, for example. In other words, people in power always gave Jesus problems.
Hey, people in power today
Yeah. Bingo.
in the United States, in Missouri,
Yeah,
in our locality,
yeah.
you know, do I need to say more?
No, so
Okay.
God's will may not be actually what's happening.
And the fact of it is, no matter, the reality is, and this is hard, okay? Because we say it's not fair. You're right, it's not fair. But the fact of it is, we have to do, it's in our best interest, I want to say it right, it's in my best interest to do the next healthy or right thing, no matter what they did to me, even if they were wrong. Because I've had people, can you imagine? I've had people do me wrong, steal money from me, steal stuff from me, tell lies about me, post me on Facebook about stuff, okay? Sue me, take me to court. I've had all those things.
Bingo.
Now, it wasn't easy in the beginning, but after each one of them you go through, you gain more and more endurance.
Yeah.
There
you go.
Okay, I'm shutting up on that one. It's back to you, Billy. Oh, back to you, Tommy. That messed me up so much. So, it was question number 3. We started with the first
Yeah.
part.
Do I trust God's will for me? If I follow the challenge of step 9. So that's saying I gotta get involved with all this stuff. I gotta get in there and do it.
No, you don't have to.
If you want to be healed, you have to. If you want to be.
I have to be willing to go through.
I don't like those statements.
Yeah.
Need to or have to. My terminology is what's in my best interest. Is it in my best interest to do that?
Yeah.
How's it going to work out for me if I do or if I don't?
It's a good question.
Say it again, John.
You need to want to.
Wanda used to pray in our closing prayer, God help me with my want to so that I want to.
Yeah, right. One way I look at it is I get to. I have an opportunity to do it.
It's available. Yeah.
I have an opportunity for freedom. How about you?
It's available to me if I choose it.
Bingo. Yep.
If I don't choose it, I go down that same
Well,
path.
and choosing is just the first step.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Okay. How's this going so far?
I like it.
I just can't hardly wait until Vanessa gets up here and expounds on all of the truth that she has.
Question 4. Which of the 12 steps do I need to focus on before I make these fearsome amends? I'll put all of them, but I read it again and that makes sense. I was thinking step 8 because it says we made a list of all the people we had harmed. So that I have my list in mind in case the opportunity comes up. Someone on my list become available to make amends with. you know?
Well, let's read that question again and ask everyone but you need to really think about it.
Which of the 12 steps do I need to focus on before I make these fearsome amends? And then I thought, the one we're working.
Well, that could be true, but I'll tell you what I came up with. I thought I needed to revisit step 1.
All of them.
And I needed to revisit step 6 in particular, and step 7. Step 7 is that we humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. And if I've asked God to remove my shortcomings, then that puts me right in the middle of that question.
That's not step 5.
Okay, share it.
That's not step 5 because we have to admit to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Okay, good.
I don't know what am I going to make amends for if I'm not willing to admit that I was wrong.
Good. Good.
Very good.
Anybody else?
I would agree with what he just said. A lot of introspection or self-realization, working through a lot of that. I want the cure to be like epoxy, not just like super glue. Where without it being a deep change,
I think we all want that, but you know what? Everything is a process. And I'd rather have a little bit of glossing over if that will lead me to the next layer next time. And besides that, I also believe that the Holy Spirit is there, and man, he can shine his light on stuff and said, well, now when we were on level 3, you only could see this much, and that's what you dealt with. Congratulations. But now we're on level 4, and now we're at that same spot again, and now it's bigger because you didn't see that part of it. Kind of like a tree growing upside down. So, but isn't that the way that it really is?
That's all I got. Unless you guys have any questions? Come on, Vanessa.
Vanessa!
So I was reading these questions to my husband, and he's like, I hear so much irritation in your voice. I'm like, yeah, it's eating my lunch. So, what am I afraid will happen when I attempt to make amends? Well, you already said rejection. So the second thing was that I will make a fool of myself by being vulnerable to people who, kind of like abandoning myself for people who abandoned me in the first place. So I guess that's a form of rejection, but I don't like feeling foolish. That's pride.
I feel like I just need to be quiet on this one right there.
Okay. You don't want to call me out?
I know, I don't think I want to. You're in a fragile spot.
I am. I brought Kleenexes because I feel like I'm going to cry.
I don't want to, directives is the defender, okay, next abuser of people. And so so that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Do I fear that painful consequences will cause me suffering if I make amends? Absolutely. If so, what's the worst that could happen? I'll tell you that I attempted to make amends with my kids and they told me I didn't deserve it. So, I mean, to me, that's the worst thing that could happen. I'm a girl, guys. It's just a thing.
And thank you for being honest, but may I ask a question?
Yes. Maybe it'll make me stop crying.
That was a hard thing that you just stated, but my question that I've written in the margin over here that I didn't ask a while ago, and I don't know why, I guess because I saved it for now, and that is, So what is in your was that in your best interest to do that with your children?
I guess with my expectations is that I was going to rekindle the relationship we had before I relapsed. And it didn't.
Yes, yeah. And I understand the expectations. It was maybe it was a little irrational expectation.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a little bit of fantasy, right? But the question that I ask here is about you. Was that in your best interest? Was that healthy for you to do?
I would say I was maybe thinking of myself maybe 10%, and the rest was 90, because I wanted my kids to know that I was sorry.
Okay. And was that healthy for you?
Evidently not. But I didn't realize that it wasn't healthy for me
No,
until
no.
after.
No, we can't do anything about what's then, but I want you to look back at what you did. Did that make you better or worse?
I think it made me better.
And that's what I'm talking about,
Okay.
right? Now, you may feel worse, and that's the way that usually works, right?
Yeah.
But was it really in your best interest? And I agree with you. I think it was in your best interest, even though it's hard and it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. But that's the beginning of the process.
I guess the original burden was lifted, even though there was another one that slid right in behind it.
Well, and and shame has a way of jumping on you and grabbing you, and but the fact of it is, you did a hard thing, and even though it's not what you wanted, but it was beneficial for you, even though it was extremely painful.
Okay.
Do you agree with that statement?
I do. Mhm.
Okay.
And it helps change my thinking. And thank you.
You're welcome.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Ugh.
Well,
I
and
hear
just
that a
remember,
lot.
Nietzsche, which is the one that said that, died like at 22.
Yeah.
Do you think you are worth it?
Do I think that I'm worth it? Worth what?
You said, I think you said your kids said you were not worth making amends. Do you think you are worth it?
Mhm.
Or worth it? See, that a lot of it has to do with what we think of ourselves. If we think strong enough of ourselves, the thoughts and feelings of others are not going to affect us as much. I'm not
Bingo,
going to say any, but as much.
bingo.
I think I'm at a 50-50 on it.
Well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
You think God thinks you're worth it?
Do I think God thinks I'm worth it? I know God thinks I'm worth it, but that doesn't mean I think He thinks I'm worth it. So I trust God's will for me.
Casting down.
This is the question that pissed me off. Because I'm like, my first answer was no. Because I don't know what his will is anymore. Too much has happened. And that's where I am right now. But if you would have asked me 6 years ago, whenever I was doing this before, I would be like, yeah, of course, I know what God's will for me is.
Well, that brings me back to what I said earlier. Just because his will for you is one thing, doesn't mean a bunch of other people can't screw up his will for you possibly.
Well, the other people aren't the ones that screwed up because I'm the one that made the choice to take the massive detour. So,
But I want to go through this first part of this question slowly
okay.
and put the emphasis on what I think the question is putting the emphasis on, and that is, do I trust God's will? Do I trust God's will for me?
So my second rebuttal was trust and faith are different. Like Thomas had faith, but he doubted. And that's where I feel I am.
Well, but we're not talking about you. We're talking about God here. Well, I mean, we'll come back
Well-
to you,
Do I trust God's will?
but will you trust that God has a will for you?
Yes.
Okay, and so you trust that.
Yeah.
Right. So, now you're saying I may not know that will, which congratulations, you're like the rest of us. Okay, you know, I've been doing this for over 50 years, and and I am still trying to figure out exactly. I know some things, but I don't know everything. And if you knew everything, then you wouldn't be operating in faith.
Right.
But do you trust that will that God has for you?
Yes. I have faith that He has a will for me.
Okay? And even if you messed your life up, not His will up. But how can you mess His will up?
How do I know that me messing it up wasn't part of it?
How do you know that?
I don't.
You don't. Because even in the midst of every situation, he can get in there and He helps us and navigates through it. Romans 5:8 says that He'll cause all these things to work together for your good. Didn't mean that He did them, but He can
Use them.
use them. That's good work. And so congratulations.
God's will is God's will, but it adjusts with our faith.
With our willingness.
Well, it's a lost sheep that gets found. Sometimes you gotta get out there and get lost before you can realize, like the prodigal son, that, hey, maybe I need to get found.
You don't see what you don't see. You don't know what you don't know until you find yourself in the pit.
Yeah.
Well, they told me this was going to be good, but they lied, right? Or I thought this is the right thing. Now, I've done that. How many times have I done that? I thought I was doing the right thing for God,
Oh, man, yeah.
but I was wrong. But I learned that, okay? And He accepts us and myself just as the prodigal son. And He welcomes us back and says, come on back. And then He reinstates us.
Right.
And that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you better bring them to me.
Here, Doug, you want to share?
Okay, sorry, Doug.
I feel like God's will for me is unchanging, and that it's my own free will that I exhibit and try to trump over that changes the outcome of any given situation. And I feel like God always wants the best of any opportunity or any given moment. His will is unchanging. But whenever I try to influence my own thoughts or my own selfish desires or I'm not being still enough to really hear Him, then that's when I mess up. So I think that if I can go back and say, well, God's will for me 5 years ago, or God's will for me 2 years ago, I think God has the same will for me each and every moment. But whenever I choose to try to not listen to that and tune it out, then that's what I'm going to do.
True, but also part of it is that part of His will is that you grow up and get your own free will to match, align more closely with His free will. In other words, a boxing trainer, he doesn't want to get in the ring for you. He wants to train you to see you get into the ring. So he wants your free will to eventually line up with His will, which is that you have free will to join with His perfect will. You know, perfect will or permissive will. And I want His perfect will, not just His permissive will.
And I think that that's where a lot of stuff that I feel super messed up is that I gave my will over to too many people. Does that make sense? Like, so every relationship that I was in, every bit of codependency, my children, like, my kids are just now becoming adults. And so I feel like I'm just now having my will back, and I'm like, oh my God, it's so messed up. And it's so gross and it's broken because I let too many people manhandle it, you know, and so maybe it's not that I don't trust God's will for me, but it's like, this thing looks unidentifiable to me. So, but I
And
made
maybe
them
that's good,
idols.
maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because if it looked like what it was before, then that's not what you want, right?
Maybe I'll have to think on that.
Okay.
Because I think about like who I was 10 years ago, or even just 6 years ago. And I'm like, God, she was so nice. And she was bubbly and she was kind. And now I'm like pessimistic and skeptical and don't come at me. Like, but maybe that's growth too, because I'm not naive and I'm not,
Yeah.
huh?
Yes, he said bingo,
Yeah.
and which I agree with that, and because, well, this may go off the rails here a little bit, but when we're children, we have to develop properly mentally and emotionally. We have to be in a relationships that reinforce us, that we, as Maslow talked about, we have to have safety, we have to feel like we belong, we have to have that connection, we have to have security, and those things help us. And then if for some reason, either through world events or different traumas or particular traumas in our family of origin, if those issues didn't enhance us, then they hindered us, and then we're always trying to regain that we didn't get then. And that's part of that healing of that trauma. And it's really hard because you don't know what you don't know, okay? But you have this because it's biological to want to be connected. And so as a child, we thought everything was our fault because that's the way children are. And so we try to make all the different shifts that we need to make everybody happy around us. And that's what I was hearing from you, that you were giving away your will because what you wanted was to be loved and accepted. I'm going out there, and you gave and you were willing to do whatever you needed to do to be able to maybe get a little bit of that. And now you've come to the place, you've grown, you've gone through some stuff, you've gone through the cycle, and you see things a little differently. That's not who I want to be. That's not going to get me what I really want. Even though that's what you believed at one time. And it wasn't your fault that you believed that, but if you believed that.
Yeah, it's going from being a people pleaser and codependent to setting boundaries feels hateful and disgusting. And I feel mean. But I'm probably not mean, but anyway.
You need to, the trouble is, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I don't mind being wrong. Very good possibility that I am, but it feels foreign. So, and you don't trust it, and so you that's the way you feel towards it. But the fact of it is, you need to really. And the main point I wanted to say here was, you really don't even, you feel it, so you run from it, okay? All right, so you avoid what it is that you really need. you know, I can't think of his name right now, but he says, the thing that you seek for is in the cave that you're too afraid to go into. I can't think of his name right now, and I didn't say the quote just exactly right, but that's the meaning of it. And so what I'm saying is, you have to be willing to look at this stuff and think about it and say, is it true I'm really mean here? Or is that just how I feel? Is this rational? Is this irrational? And you really just, you need to investigate that.
That's where I'm at.
Well, the question that comes to my mind is, do you love yourself more than you want other people to love you?
At this point in my life, yes. And that's another thing that feels foreign, is that I love myself more than I love others to a degree, if that makes sense. Because you have to love yourself first before you can love others.
Bingo.
So maybe it's not that I love myself more, it's just that I'm actually loving myself now enough to set those boundaries and not put myself,
I don't know, you may be putting love and trust together, and there's, you know, and oftentimes we think all or nothing, and that it's still a continuum.
Well,
And we don't love everybody the same, and we don't trust everybody the same.
Right.
And that has to do with relationship. Not everybody has emotional access to me.
Right. Well, I guess to me, like, love is like the love being loving, love being kind, being patient, things like that. And so if I'm not acting that way or feeling that way about myself, then I'm not loving myself.
It's yes, and you're actually poisoning your own self if we're not able to do that. But what you're doing is you're having to rewire your brain.
Yeah.
And you're doing it.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So which of the 12 steps do I need to focus on before I make these fearsome amends? Well, my first thought was step 2, becoming willing to admit that there is a God greater than ourselves, than myself, that can restore us back to sanity. I've always had a problem with that stuff, because I was like, how can he restore me back to a state of being that I've never been?
Well, that's a great question, and I'd like to answer that.
Go ahead.
It's your assessment.
Right.
That you never had sanity.
Mhm.
But how was you created? We don't even know how we were created, and we were in that state of sanity. We were in that place until, and that he made us this way, because he didn't make us flawed.
Right.
All right. Now, the trouble is, we may not see our right brain as we grew up as children. It has to do with dealing with all the big stuff and emotion, but we're not able to think cognitively.
Right.
Right. And so, and then we record all these messages that other people tell us, and then we interpret it that evidently we are bad, okay, because of blank, 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 right? And so we, as we do that, we drift further away from that understanding who we are. I say that's who you were. God created you the way you're supposed to be, and we have drifted away, and that's the reason why he's given us his grace and said, remember a few weeks ago, we talked about out of Ephesians, that he said before he created the world, the foundations of the world, he loved us and accepted us, and he saw us without a single fault or flaw. That was before he made the world. You got it?
Mhm.
And so that's how you were. And I think that was probably sane, meaning being emotionally, spiritually, physically regulated in that place, instead of being dysregulated in all those places. What do you think?
I agree, and I will say, like, he's created, like, to me, since I struggle with that, I know he's created sanity. Or evidently he's restored me back to it. I definitely am way more sane now than I was back then. And,
Congratulations.
thank you. So either he's restored me, or the way I've thought about it is that he is the creator of the universe. If it didn't exist, he can create it for you. And so that's how I chose to change step 2 for my liking. And that's how I was able to get through step 2.
Well, you know what? I'm okay. All right. If that helps you make that place, okay. But I'm not changing what I said.
No, and I do agree with what you said. I just never thought of that.
That's fine.
Mhm. So
That's the reason why I'm here.
I was just being too busy upset with the step to think any differently about it, other than changing it to fit what I needed.
It's all right.
Okay, sorry, we've gone way over.
Oh, I know. Well, thank you. I'm going to say that I think our discussions here lately have been so good, and I just want to say thank you for your openness, your willingness to be vulnerable. Vanessa, your willingness to be vulnerable there and talking, that's so big, and that's what we want to be here at Saturday Night Life Recovery, is to be a safe place to help people to heal, to be restored, and not to push you or make you do anything, but to be a help if you so desire that help. So, and Jimmy, I was thinking about you today. What do you think about that? That one of these days soon, we need to get you to share in the reflection some. How about that?
Sure.
All right, good. And Bobby too, if we can get him to. So, any questions before I close? Because I'm not even going to attempt going into that. Yes, sir. Yes, yeah. I'll right up here, and then I'll let you put them on that table for me. Anything else? May the Lord bless you and keep you. I love you guys. And may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. Make healthy choices. Now, we will not be here next week, but we'll be here the week after. All right? So, thanks, everybody.